Yo, what's the deal, guys? What's the deal, fellas?
Peace.
What up? What
Peace.
up, though?
Good to be on.
Yeah, man, it's good to see you guys, man. The way that we met, the way that we come together is amazing, and so it's good that we can get a chance to come together to do something that has a very good purpose. We've had a chance to talk about what we're doing a lot, but I don't know if our viewers gonna know. So I want to go about letting them understand what we're doing here, while we're on the call. Shaka, I talk to you all the time. Adam, I talk to you guys, and we all talk to each other so much. And there's been so many conversations that we've had that feel like, man, like what if we could have that conversation in a way that other people could share that conversation and share in that conversation, I should say, where they can understand some of the things that we bring up. Because I feel like some of the topics that we bring up are things that everybody wants to really chime in on. So, I'm really happy to know a diverse set of brothers who have something to add to conversations and whatnot. So, Shaka, I want to get a chance to hear a little bit about you. You got your art in the background. I love to see the things you got. What's that about?
Well, I'm let you know my name is Shaka. I am a teacher, artist, activist, priest. I do a little bit of everything, and but I'm also very proud to be here. To be able to talk with my brothers. I'm an educator. I'm a person who believes in knowledge itself and being able to speak from my own experiences. Which are many. Look, I'm ready to have some fun. I'm ready to talk about some topics. So it's a little bit about who I am. The art and stuff, I have tons of it. We can get into that type of stuff. I'm a painter. I'm a tattoo artist. I do murals. I do a little bit of everything.
That's awesome, man. That's exciting stuff, man. Adam, man, what's going on with you, man?
What's good?
The bandana. What's good?
Oh man, a little bit, So, well, my name's Adam. Obviously, we go back to what 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
About this time, '01, and yeah, man, I'm repping Columbus, Ohio, as our good LB will call it, Ohio. Uh, And yeah, man. Also educator, and just a grinder, man. Like mentor, activist, um, you know, sports connoisseur, music connoisseur, hip hop connoisseur. You know what I mean? Like I try to give those the best moments of black excellence in those things, man, and just really, also a father, and maybe I don't know. Back in the day, it would have been called. We didn't have the word influencer, but man, I would like to think that I got, maybe a few nephews, few sons out here, man.
So yeah, man, that's the reason why we get a chance to chat with each other, man. We get a chance to keep it cool. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, by the way, to
what's up?
welcome, like formally welcome to the gang. Like I'm 2 years in the game. Shaka, I know Shaka is, 13 years in the game.
Yeah,
13 years.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying?
Dads, man. 2020 been a crazy year, and having a newborn is really great, man. So
What do our kids got to grow up in, man? Like you think about like what do our children have to grow up in this next like we just had an election, you know what I'm saying? Like so
right.
you know what I mean? Like the leaders, the new leaders that we have, you know what I'm saying? Like Biden just got it, right? Biden and Kamala. What y'all think
That's the
about
word
that?
on the street,
What do y'all think about the election? Like what do y'all think about
man. Adam, what you think, man?
Oh man, I'm pretty excited about it, man. Like I have muted excitement about. I'm more so excited about just the change, man. Like I just
Yeah.
think that the way that the direction that things were going in, it seemed like things were becoming more and more polarized and more divided. I think more than anything else, and it's not on some kumbaya. You know what I mean? I'm all about collectivism and you know what I mean, like circular economics. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't mad at anybody who sat out or who voted for Trump. You know what I mean? Even like people like that's fine, but at the end of the day, like I'm looking forward to seeing like what the incoming administration is going to do as far as like tangibles. You know what I mean? Like, that's been a buzzword this past election season from a lot of conversations that I've had with good brothers that I respect intellectually that either didn't vote or didn't vote. We didn't vote for the same person.
Yeah.
My daughter, that's my 2-year-old in the
Hey,
background right now. She's hungry.
Black father.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, man, I'm just looking forward to seeing what they do. Honestly, man, like immediately after they get in there, like the first 100 days, period.
Yo, man, I would like to see some like respect given back to the office. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like these past years, man, like like the respect for the office of presidency has gone all the way down. Because of the type of stuff that we've seen. Like, I mean, I feel like these past 4 years, we've never seen anything like this. This is like beyond even Richard Nixon type stuff, that we witnessed these past 4 years. Like, you think about all the things that Trump has done in the office, what I'm saying, over this 4 years. Some of us have never seen this stuff before. You know what I'm saying? Like, ever. And we didn't know how to react to it. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, it's good to see somebody that's going to come in and just change things, bring some more respect back.
Oh yeah, like dignity for sure is I think that for whatever gripes people have, and I've heard many different ones about President Obama and what he did or did not do for Black people. Say what you want about that, but I think that just the esteem that he brought to the position, the job, the actual job of being president and being the quote unquote leader of the free world, like that should carry a certain amount of esteem and dignity, So, I don't think Joe Biden. I can't see Joe Biden sending out like a Twitter flurry at like 2 or 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? Like with Trump or like a Twitter bid. Right?
That I actually will miss, son. Like I'm actually gonna miss that.
No, me too, bro. Like, like Trump was on Twitter just going ham, like get Kanye or somebody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the?
I mean, the funny thing about it to me is when you think about the whole administration, what we saw over the past 4 years, I think it's important for us to have a takeaway, like in terms of like what is it that we learn. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you fail at something is when you have the most opportunity to learn. Most of the time when you're on the upswing, when things are going well, you usually just accept those things are going well and you take it for granted. I think that what we learned this year is that, or over the previous 4 to 5 years, is that the division that our country faces is a real thing. One of the things that I used to see whenever I would listen to Donald Trump speak is the cues that he would use. Like, a lot of the cues that he would use in terms of the people that he was reaching, the types of hooks that he's using to reach them were the same types of hooks that you would have found Adolf Hitler using to attract the lower class German people to understand that, oh, these people in our communities are affecting us and ruining our communities because
we appeal to white nationalists. Yeah,
exactly. So that type of conversation is what got people to the point where they started to see the Jews as the problem, and then eventually get to the point where they hated Jews. And so what I'm saying is, I saw a lot of hatred that started from division, and I'm expecting our country to learn how to heal in the opposite direction as far as learning a little bit more unity and togetherness. Regardless of whether you're on one side or the other, I expect to see a little bit more like progress in terms of like us being able to relate to each other.
We got a new woman vice president.
Exactly.
The first female vice president is an African American woman. That's something to be said.
And then we got the first male gentleman, of the country. Her husband, the vice
Gentlemen. That's true. Man, what does that got to be like? Like to be the like if it flipped, like what? How would y'all do that? Like, would you accept your wife being the president?
Yeah. If my wife was the vice president of the United States, I would have no problem with that whatsoever.
You're the first sir, the first. What would they call you? The first gentleman.
But
It
wait a
depends
minute,
on
it was
who it is
supposed to
talking.
be.
They might
Remember
call
when it
me the
was
same
about to
name I
be?
used to always be called.
Hold up. Remember when they thought it was going to be Sarah Palin though? Remember that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you know, Sarah Palin somewhere right now, salty as fuck. Like, damn, like, oh, like Kamala. You know, she probably like fucking her name up all kind of ways.
Yo, it's so many salty white women out there right now, son. It's like who even what's the name? Hillary. Hillary got to be a little salty. You know what I'm saying? Hillary. What's the other white woman that just ran?
Warren.
Warren.
Hey,
Like
shout out to Warren though. I mess with
shout
Warren.
out, yeah, she was cool. You know.
What do y'all think causing the divide in the first place? Like, when we look at where we about to go in the future, you know what I'm saying? We have to think about like being in a position where we have an opportunity to change what we've been in to where we're going. You know what I'm saying? So I want to really get a chance to talk to you guys a little bit about how our country has been divided for a while. Hold on.
I mean, you know, our country's been divided since slavery. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Production assistant just slid me a note that said, "Shout out to Black women for showing up and showing out
what is mine?
on the vote." But
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah.
but also shout out to, you know, the OGs, our elders. You know what I mean? I know that you know, my parents, both in their 70s, they both voted by mail, absentee, and you know, a lot of other you know, voters in swing states, states that Biden wasn't expected to win, especially immediately after election day, because you know, I think for the most part, a lot of people that showed up on election day were more so leaning towards Trump supporters. And then, you know, and then I found out that some of the states, they didn't even start counting the mail-in ballots until that day. So it's like once they started counting all those mail-in ballots in some of these major cities like Detroit, Milwaukee, you know, even Arizona, you know, like there's other places that, you know, usually lean Republican, vote red, that Biden won. Um, you know, it's completely shifted in a matter of like less than 2 days. Like, because at the night of the election, it did not look in any way like it was a sure thing that Biden was going to win. It actually, and you know, Trump basically announced that he won
Yeah.
that night. Like
See, but
that was the craziest thing about it.
what a lot of people don't know though is that Biden is very conservative. Like a lot of people look at Biden as like this liberal guy.
Oh, no, he's not.
He's
He's a
super
centrist for
conservative.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a
I would
conservative.
say a centrist or a moderate, but you know, he's definitely not. But in terms of like on the Democrat side, he's not like AOC or Ayanna Presley or you know even with the mayor Pete Buttigieg. Like he's not like one of the more left or liberal Democrats. He's more of a centrist.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
And
saying. Like the white college community, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? White college, like those are the folks who are like out there voting like crazy, you know, in those states. And so like those are the folks that, you know, Obama was able to get. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Biden was able to get them. Biden was able to get them as well this time around. Now that doesn't mean that like I personally feel like that crowd looks for big personalities. You know what I'm saying? And so like somebody like Trump could have very well swayed them, in my opinion. You know what I'm
right,
saying? But you know what I mean because Biden had like you know more of a liberal type of plan. You know, they kind of went with him, and I mean, I personally don't like either one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not a Biden or Trump fan at all. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But you know, I can respect.
My thing is we can't really always get upset about people having their own opinions too. You know what I'm saying? Like in the future we gotta get to a point where we understand like when a person say they don't want to vote, we can't keep like ostracizing that person for not voting. Like if it's your opinion, I know people say, "Oh yeah, our ancestors died. They died for a lot of things." But I'm not going to continue trying to tell somebody who say they don't want to vote that they're doing something wrong. I also don't want to tell
Well, the
somebody
thing,
who is voting that they're doing something wrong. Because I've seen people who get upset, now that they're looking at the statistics of people who voted, 80% of the black men voted for Biden, but then 20% voted for Trump. And so they're looking at it like, oh, well, these black men voted for Trump. So now that information, we're going to have to deal with the future of people running around talking about a black man. Oh, you probably one of those dudes who voted for Trump. Nobody deserves to hear that kind of talk in the future, because this is dividing us amongst lines of political dogma. And that's not what we need right now, especially in the black community. Like for us to get to the point where we're starting to look at, oh, the black women voted for Trump. I mean, voted for Biden, or the black men voted for Trump, and then turn that into a conversation about how the black man isn't looking out for the black woman because he's voting for Trump. Those type of conversations are right around the corner because of the voting statistics that they're putting out about the demographics. And the thing that troubles me is we're supposed to be going to a place of better unity in this day and age. And what I mean by day and age, I'm talking about the Aquarian age, the time frame that we're in, like the generation we're in. We're supposed to be more unified. So the more that I think about, we're talking about in our moment of excitement, oh, these people, they went this way, they voted that way, they voted that way. That's something that makes it hard to talk about this whole thing. It's like we end up making somebody out to be bad person.
Well,
Yeah,
there's a conversation. There's a whole conversation about like the way, and I do think there's a distinct cultural difference in the way that our people talk about voting and the way that we'll say I used to back when I was an educator in school. We had black and white teachers and students, but one of the teachers, my elders, she would say, we have beautiful people and wonderful people. So the wonderful people, the way that they talk about voting is completely different from how we talk about voting in our community. Like, for example, like the way that we talk about voting is almost like on the group chat sometimes, or in the Facebook comments, it gets wild. Like, you know what I mean? To where cats is literally like about to say like, yeah, like up your address, I'm about to pull up. Like, you know what I mean? Or people will say immediately because
I'm not with that shit.
you're not
because we're
supporting Trump.
emotional.
Like, they'll say like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
like,
I'm
yeah,
not
it's
with
like
that
a
shit.
first take style like debate, where it's like, oh, so you with Biden? Like, oh, so you with Biden? Like, oh, you really rock with Joe Biden? Like,
And see,
like,
like,
nah, like,
yo,
relax.
that's the problem. See, I think we get mixed up like black politics versus like Western politics, right?
Yeah,
Like this type of stuff happens in Haiti, right? Where a group, and in Jamaica, where a group of black folks, a community will back a politician, and then another group of black folks will back another politician, and now they out fighting like there is a gang war and stuff like that. Like we have to be careful because like we get kind of emotional when it comes to like leadership and choosing the leaders and stuff like that. But we can't forget like black people have been voting Republican for years. Black people
yeah,
have been voting Democrat for years.
yeah.
So like we have to remember like, and guess what? Both black people who are
They
Democrat and
they should both
Republican
be.
have been hung
Yeah,
by white nationalists back in the day. It didn't matter if you was black Republican. There's some people who were black Republicans got killed because they are black Republicans. There's some
both groups still have common interests.
both groups still have common interests, and since
Yeah,
we both have common interests, we should be talking along those lines
yeah,
versus along like Republic. We should be playing both them,
yeah,
which is what's going on.
yeah.
Uh,
So
Well, yeah,
there's room for
man.
Kanye, and there's room for
hell
Kwame.
no, there ain't no room for Kanye, son. I'm sorry.
It's the
There's room for
proverbial
all of them.
Sit his
dog.
Look,
ass down.
everybody needs to have a say in the contract, bro. But why not? Why not?
Get this
I'm
Negro
saying,
a shrink. No, for real, yo. Like he needs some. He needs some
bro, Kanye,
mental help.
60,000 people voted for Kanye, bro.
So what?
Kanye, bro.
They would have voted for Mr. Pencil too if you would have like wrote his name in there. Like,
Look,
okay, I got
Honestly,
yeah, yeah.
considering the merit of what you just said, before we move on to the next
I would
topic,
consider it. I'm not saying I would definitely vote for it, but I'm just saying I would at least consider it.
here's the thing, man. Like, I think I'm prepared to open my arms up to people that have different viewpoints, and I think that we need to be comfortable with the black man who doesn't have the liberal opinions, or the person who wants to go a different direction from what the norm is going. Because honestly, I think that that's only fair. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that we can continue moving forward in this situation where if we got Republicans versus Democrats, we got bipartisan to politics, but we're going to look at somebody who decides to go one way or the other, a certain direction. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where we get to this division. It's like the proverbial, like, when they start to say like the lesser of two evils. You know what I'm saying? It's like they pit one person against the other, and they can use that to kind of make you pick from the same pool. Like, these candidates are really not people who are out here who live in these communities that we are expecting them to actually affect. They don't live in these communities that we expect them to change. They don't come from these communities. So
Right.
we expect them to change them. We have to be the ones who do that. And we have to figure out some, change initiatives that don't require us going to the ballot every 4 years. Because that seems to be what I see most people get involved with.
I think black folks feel like that's like the answer. You know what I'm saying? Like go to the ballot. And that is not the answer. That is a answer. That is a way. That's
Right.
a pathway. But that is a strategy. But that is
Right.
not the way. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we feel like we're a monolithic people and we're not. Like there's some honestly, black people, our values are more conservative. If anything, our values are more
I
aligned with
agree.
Republicans than Democrats, honestly. But now when you're talking about like, the history of like the Democrats supporting certain things that black people support, then so it's kind of like it's been a flip flop through history. Like Lincoln was a Republican. You know what I'm saying? The
Right.
person who freed the slaves was a Republican. You know what I'm saying? The person that signed the civil rights bill was a Democrat. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And so like we have to stop looking at it like which side are we on versus like what are our interests? Like that's how
Right.
the Asian community comes at it. What are our
and
interests?
which side is offering the more like tangibles that align with our interests as a community. So the thing is, like, a lot of and I wouldn't say that by any stretch that our community is the only people that's guilty of this, but if you look especially at like the Hispanic community in Florida, with what they did with Biden, with the messaging on the Trump side and aligning him with being a socialist, like you said, like Biden is by far not the most left. Like that's somebody more like Bernie Sanders or AOC. But what they
Right.
were able to do with their messaging is basically make Biden and Harris seem like they were going to be socialists,
Right.
which is like they're like probably the most conservative out of all of the Democrats that put their name in the ring for president. Biden and Harris were probably the safest, most conservative ones.
But you know why that
Yeah.
was, maybe. You know why that was, right?
Well,
Because most of
that was a strategic move, which was
but,
like,
but you know the history of why the reason why they did that is because the Cubans that lived there,
oh yeah, oh for
yeah,
sure, yeah, that came from Cuba
from
and
yeah,
Castro and everything.
from
Yeah,
Castro, right? So
yeah,
those
they're
are the folks.
extremely anti-socialist.
Yeah, right.
But the funny thing is, if you talk to some Israelites and some people in our community, they're just as extremely anti-socialist as those Cuban Americans, I should say.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, like like there's a lot of people in our community that are just as, or they may be older and grew
Yeah,
up during the Cold War or during Vietnam and all those things. They're also extremely anti-socialist.
absolutely. I mean, I
Uh,
feel like also like black folks during that time, like you said the older black folks had to deal with being called socialist, right? And
yeah,
had to deal with like what they call the Red Scare and all that other stuff
yeah,
that
that's
people were looking for.
Belafonte, that's Du Bois, that's
Yeah,
No matter
James
whether you
Baldwin.
have
Yeah,
socialism, Marxism, fascism, whatever ism you have, we got to start finding the things that actually bring us together. And one thing that brings us together is sports. Our country is going to start needing to lean on things that we don't look at politics being the lines that we draw. You could be in a sports game and sit next to somebody as a fan and that person can have political opinions that completely differ from yours, but you can enjoy yourself right there next to that, fan. And so that's one of the things that sports allows. And honestly, even though I know a lot of conscious people don't really ever want to be a part of the sports world, the way I see it, as long as we have black men and women who dedicate their lives, in some cases, time of their lives, to being a part of a sport, and they go and become employed by these sports owners and leagues and commissions, I think that they need support, because a lot of times when you really look at the world that they're in, it's very difficult to feel prosperous sometimes, to feel successful. They may make all the money in the world, but they may still be missing and lacking some of the things that they feel like make them a whole person. And some of those things are things that the community can offer them. But because we live in a situation where we look up to these people and we see them as millionaires and we see them as somebody completely beyond us who we are, we like to try to leave them out on their own to kind of figure out the world. And sometimes they're in situations that they've never been a part of and they don't understand. And I always want to say it that way, because a lot of times, especially when I was growing up, I used to look at sports like a circus. Like, people who play sports are clowns, and we have to look at it like, oh, these guys are just getting paid to toss a ball around. I don't look at it that way anymore, though, because I'm looking at it like, man, somebody dedicate their life to something, they mean something to them. Saying. And so with baseball being a sport that has kind of helped bring African Americans to sports in general over time, looking at the World Series, I was touched by the fact that Mookie Betts was a black man who actually helped win the World Series. So, like, I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about your understanding of sports, and like how you accept sports into your life, knowing that whether you play it or not, you see the people who you are in your communities want to either be a athlete or a rapper. So sports are gonna always have a part in our communities. You know what I'm saying? So I want to get a chance to hear a little bit about what you guys think about that.
Oh, I'll take it. I'll take it first. I mean, I think that my interest in sports overall over the past probably now closer to 10 years, but like 5, 10 years. I mean, there was definitely, because I remember 10 years ago that was around the time like the whole LeBron Miami thing happened. You know, everybody knows I'm a huge LeBron fan, whatever. You know what I mean? Like LeBron stan. But I'm saying, like, in terms of just like sports and I mean, it's a distraction. You know, I think that as you know these incidents have increased with just all of the social justice aspects. You know what I mean? Like, LeBron is on the Lakers now. He just won a championship with the Lakers. He was doing, when he was on Miami, they were protesting. You know what I mean? Like, that was 7 years ago. It's like this shit is old. You know what I mean? Like, I remember going to Mike Brown protests, and you know what I mean? Like, do the New York Eric Garner. You know what I mean? Like, these are all incidents, and then the whole thing with Colin Kaepernick. And I remember when we was supposedly boycotting the NFL, which I never really got into because it was like,
Right.
The NFL is built off of us. You know what I mean? Like, like I wouldn't even have any interest in the NFL if there wasn't, dudes that I remember when they came up through whatever
That's what I'm
college they
saying.
went to. Like, yeah, like you watch
And his
the games
value
for
to
the
the sport,
players.
his
Yeah.
value to the sport, and his ability to impact millions of people, as it were, comes from what you just saying. It's not because he's the only football player and he came to the sport. It's because of what built everybody that made them come to that sport and look at it like that. So for us to turn around and be like, oh, we want to tear that down, I can't really be a part of that.
I mean, if you look at somebody like Lamar Jackson or like, Deshaun Watson, like these are guys that I watched in college, you know what I mean? And when they came out, you know what I mean, there was probably some other dudes, who don't necessarily fit that prototype that got drafted ahead of them. You know what I mean? But like, it's almost like when you see them winning MVP or, producing at a high level in the pros, it's like, when we was coming up, the black quarterback, guys like Warren Moon and Dante Culpepper, it was like a
Right.
novelty. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost like, Oh well, black quarterbacks they're more running quarterbacks. They're not like guys that could throw for 400 yards. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But I feel like they've definitely shut that stereotype down, man. Like so
Man,
it's a new
I,
era.
I have to say, like, for me, I've always saw sports as like a distraction, right? Like when I was younger, I was more into like contact sports. So I wanted to do like wrestling. I did wrestling. I did
Mm-hmm.
fencing. I did karate, stuff like that. And so like I've always looked at, like what Nate just said, like throwing the ball, like, it's just like a bunch of waste of time. But then once I got into college, I got a chance to see like this actually helps some brothers get through school. You know what I'm saying? Like, you think about a lot of the young boys who are saying, like, I want to be a football player, I want to be a basketball player. What a lot of them are really saying is like, I want to be able to use this as a vehicle in order to make something of my life. And there aren't too many choices out here in our communities, and sports is
Right.
definitely a choice, is an option for black men. You think about how many black male coaches there are out there that are supporting black men being fathers to boys who don't have fathers. You know what I'm saying? And so like I would never want to take that away. You know what I'm saying? Like my son, he's done football. And I remember taking him out there. He was a corner, and his like football team was like mostly African American boys. And you just see like all the black male coaches and like, showing up there as a dad. It was just like it's just proud moments. So like, I don't feel like that should be ever taken away. But when we get into like professional sports, I think, there's definitely that owner versus player type of dynamic that needs to be really studied in order for us to like make sure there's some sort of equality. You know what I'm saying? And I'm thankful for, and I know they're millionaires, but you think about these owners, they're billionaires. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the people who play sports, they get an adequate amount of money. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but I feel like they still should have some sort of like ownership of the team. You
I
know,
agree.
like they're out here running, like breaking their necks, getting concussions and shit like that. The health of the players are not like, focused on, I feel.
Yeah, when you talk about it from that angle, you bring up a whole nother issue when it comes to sports because black people have, in a lot of ways, saved the country with sports because the distraction that you say, we might use that word and talk about it like, oh, the boo hoo on that. But really, that's a big thing to have a distraction during a time like what we went through this year, 2020 pandemic, civil rights movement, everything like that. Having sports was a distraction, but it was a needed distraction for people who felt like the anxiety level may have gone up too high for them. Some people might have felt like it was an untimely distraction, but nevertheless, I do think that that's what sports has always been, part of it. And so, for Black people, men and women, to be a part of that distraction, a lot of them faced a lot of mental anguish, mainly because it's difficult for them to feel confident in being a part of the distraction in the community that will get people to start thinking about so what do you think about how that might have affected some of the brothers and sisters who might have had to go out here and play sports to make money because that's what they signed up to do, but now they realize that that's being used to kind of keep the community divided.
Check this. Real quick, I just want to say, like, you think about like with sports, a lot of cultural wars have been fought through sports. Believe it or not, like you think about like Joe Louis and Max Schmeling. That was a cultural
Right.
war. You know what I'm saying? That happened inside of the ring, and black people was able to just watch, to be able to watch something like that. Muhammad Ali, to be able to be so like bombastic about how he feels, and then decide that I'm gonna not go to war. Like, the statements that they make is as athletes, go around the world. My back, AD. Go ahead.
Oh no, I actually had to look something up because one of the points I wanted to make was like with this whole thing, even just watching like the bubble, and the way that sports came back. I think that just proved the point that you was making earlier about like it being a distraction, from the election, from all of the social justice issues, and how they try to incorporate that messages on the court. Like some of that you could say it was corny or cringe, whatever. But I think that you know the, the players wanted to, if they basically said it on those terms, like if we're going to come back and we're going to play this game, um, then it's going to be on these terms. And then even when Jacob Blake happened, they had a boycott again, like in the middle of the playoffs. So, and the players in the WNBA, it's like other leagues that also, baseball, there were baseball teams that got in front of that. And yeah, like, sports have become less, I guess, significant to me just because, there's other things, going on. And, but I mean, I never really got out of watching, certain sports or NFL, whether it be NFL or NBA. I think I definitely stopped caring about baseball as much. And, I grew up playing baseball. My dad coached me in baseball growing up, like coached my team, like I
So
think
do you
that
think
is
it
a
still
whole
makes an
nother
impact
aspect.
then? Do you still think that sports has an impact in terms of like social change and like getting people to actually motivate new ways? Like obviously when Muhammad jumped out there and he was like, I ain't gonna go out there and fight against the people in, another side of the country. I mean,
You know,
planet, not gonna go fight people somewhere else when I'm fighting for my life out here where I live. You know what I'm saying? That was a point where that had social implications for sure. And you knew that he had something to lose. He went to jail. You know what I'm saying? And for us to look at it now, like do sports athletes still have the same thing at stake? Do they still have the ability to have the same kind of mark on the community as they used to?
I think it's possible, but I think that some athletes choose different ways to do it. Like you have some athletes that create their own foundations. You have some athletes that create hashtags. You know what I'm saying? So it's like depending on the person and their desire to help make change. That'll you'll
True.
see those actions happen.
Identity versus identification. Whenever you look at the word identity, you're thinking about how you see yourself, who you see yourself as, who you identify yourself as. But then you think about the word identification, which is very close, but it's not exactly the same. When you think about identification, that's actually what you're able to require other people to see you as, what you're able to say to someone, this is what you can call me, and what you're able to put on something like an identification card, that makes you able to be in a status of some sort. So,
Pretty
we
much government name versus artistic name.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
with the Nation of Islam, as Muslims, a lot of people used to clown the Muslim community men who would change their names and say something about the fact that they changed their names, but they had a Christian name and then they had this Muslim name. And they would use that as a point to pick on people. But that was a point of power for people like Malcolm X to go from Malcolm Red to be the man that he became. He had to change his name. He couldn't go from that same name that he was before. But even when you change your name to a more cultural name, is that really you identifying with your true culture? You know what I'm saying? And so I wanted to, delve into that a little bit, man. What you guys think about the difference between your identity and your identification?
Uh, I got that one right off rip, man. So I did just recently did some more digging into um, the history of my daughter's namesake, which, as you guys know, I'm born and raised Christian and practicing Christian, but my daughter has an Arabic or a Muslim name. Her name's Amina. And I knew that, the translation in Arabic meant honest and trustworthy. I think there's even some translations like almost like friend of God. But there's a historical reference too, which I first learned about. I don't know. I I know I first heard the reference probably in 97, 98, but that's on the Roots' first album, or first proper album. But Do You Want More? The Silent Treatment. So the Black Thought version of that. I know what. Queen Amina, height 5'7", something, something. So he mentions Queen Amina, which is an actual Nigerian queen, 16th century queen.
Mhm.
And she was a warrior. And this is what I was learning more about today. Like, her brother actually, when their father died, her brother assumed the role of the leader of their tribe. Um, and she, went to train and become like a great warrior in general. She was a strategist, like a war general, and led their army to great battle victories. And eventually, she became the first queen of their people, to where she was, the unquestioned ruler. And then the wild part about it was, I wanted to. I had this idea where I was gonna like do the whole Kill Bill get up, where I was gonna be Pai Mei for Halloween, and she was gonna be Beatrix or B, so I was gonna be the sensei, and then I was gonna get her the little yellow jumpsuit, like with the sword.
Yeah.
And they got a video on BBC.com talking about Queen Amina, and they show her with the sword, and she riding on horses, and she's a
Yeah.
warrior. And they said whenever she would win a battle, she would take a husband and she would have him for one night, and then the next day she would have cut their head off. You know what I mean? Like, execute a nigga. Like, one night a nigga, and then execute a nigga. Can you imagine? You know what I mean? That was that was her get down.
Look, I'm not trying to have
But
that.
that's
But look,
that's something to aspire to. If you're gonna talk about a badass, like,
yeah. Let me
she
pick
gets
up
more.
real quick with identity versus identification, right? Like, I feel like as Black people, we came with one and then we were given the other. So like we came to the shores with identity and then we were given an identification, right? And since then,
Right.
we've been kind of trying to like fight it off, you know what I'm saying, or rename, redefine, you know what I'm saying, ourselves. Whether it's through our identity trying to get back to that or trying to identify ourselves through some sort of identification to let everyone else know this is who we are, right? And also while trying to filter in like American shit, right? The American way of identifying, which is a
Right.
little different than the way that we as Black people normally like to identify. You know what I'm saying? And so like, it's through that confusion, I feel like our identity and our identification has become somewhat confused and mixed up. Some of us don't know our identity, right? But
And
we
that's the
can
point that I
identify.
was making, because that can cause mental confusion and that can cause mental instability and in some cases mental disorders. I mean, honestly, if you were told that you are not even human, for generations, at first, like, think about it, how crazy it is, right? The first generation, people to come up to you and be like, you ain't no human. You're like, man, get the hell out of here. You know what I'm saying? And then they kill the first dude that do that. You know what I'm saying? You be like, oh shit, they really meant the fuck they talking about. And that first generation, you be like, God damn, man, these people really want to tell us that we ain't human, bro. Like, we gonna have to let them people really have it the way they say that it is. But
Right.
then their kids gonna have that fear, and then the next generation, and then the next generation, and next generation, and it get to the point where when we trying to recycle it back, we can't even really get to the point where we starting to be like identifying ourselves as humans properly, because we start thinking about the stuff like with voting.
So the way I look at voting is it's just the bare minimum. Like, if you don't do anything else, the least you can do is go stand in line for 15, 20 minutes and vote.
Them
You
lines
know,
will
and
be
you don't
15
even have to know
minutes.
all of the names, but you should, because that's like your
That shit gonna take
responsibility.
longer than
It's like,
10, 15 minutes.
That shit longer than 15 minutes.
I mean,
Yo, I ain't gonna be in there
yeah,
fucking place. You
well,
gonna
I
be in there
definitely
for
Chicken
a
waited
whole
Snickers,
day
15,
nigga.
15
line
minutes this
talking
time.
about.
You know what I mean?
I
I
chose
definitely waited,
first
but
leader.
that was because a lot of people, I would say more people, definitely for sure, than 4 years ago came out to vote. I also voted in, the midterms and the last, just every election since '04, and the turnout was crazy this year. So I mean, I think that just spoke to the type of leadership that we have had for the last 4 years, and the fact that people, one way or the other, definitely felt strongly. Yeah, I mean, like this president, more than any that I can remember, brought out strong emotions on both sides. But I think it's definitely time to tone some of that down, man. You know what I mean? Like the the way that we're living, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. You know what I mean? Like it's still not like there's other bigger than just political affiliation.
Right.
Uh,
Can I
that
say something real quick? Yo,
yeah,
I think that like with the whole voting thing, like black people definitely should be registered to vote. I don't think that like any black person should not be registered
yeah,
to vote.
Right. I
And the
agree.
reason why I say that is because that's where they pick the juries, right?
yeah.
And like if we're not on those juries and we're not able to do like, you know what I'm saying, help give our voice when it comes to said crimes that are put out there in courts, you know what I'm saying? So we need to do that. I think with
The
that,
other,
like, you
the
know,
other reason why I think that we need to make sure that we register to vote is because even though there's going to be a certain number of people who don't vote, and I think that that's a good thing. I think that the people who are the non-voters, they're in a position where they're telling the politicians, "Hey, you haven't found out how to bring me to the party yet. You haven't invited me to the party in a way that I feel comfortable coming to the party, and I'm definitely not going to put on my best outfit to come to your party when you didn't even invite me." And I think that that's what the non-voters are not knowing how to say, and there's no platform for them to say it properly. And there, honestly, it's difficult to have people really listen to it and vibe with what they're saying, because how many people gonna listen when you're saying, "Hey, the reason why people don't vote is because they don't believe that that what I want is even on the list of things being discussed." So, I think that we need to have the avenue for people who don't want to vote to be a part of the number that politicians see that they're missing. And registering to vote, but not voting, will allow people to be like, okay, well, these are the people that I haven't even reached. Because you don't even know who you're missing if you don't register to vote.
I think one of the
that's
things that these
strategy though.
parties
That's
play a
strategy that's looked at, you know, more like an octopus versus like a donkey or an elephant. Like you got your hands in everything, right? Like your hands are in everything, so you could be able to pull things together when necessary. Like, okay, we're not voting. We have this block of black voters that have decided they don't want to vote. Well, what are y'all gonna do for us? You know what I'm saying?
okay.
That's
So
what I'm
to that
saying.
point,
Bring that and validate a bullet.
what I'm saying is that the fact that Trump increased his vote amongst black men, this past election, almost doubled it, should be a shot to the Democratic Party to say, y'all missed an opportunity. Why is it that after 4 years that Trump increased his support amongst the people that have been your base for the last however many decades, that should alarm the Democratic Party to say, like, okay, where? So I mean, it's like they have to meet people where they're at. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, that's on us as well, because I think a lot of us only stay engaged for like the year leading up to the election, and then people are going to stop paying attention and go back to their own life, because right now there's a lot of shit going on, and it's like everybody's kind of worried about what's in front of them. So it's like, the other 3 years when it's not an election year, people say, "Oh yeah, I don't get into politics." You know what
But
I
it's
mean? It's,
not relevant, though. Here's what's relevant. When it comes to identity,
but
Asian,
that's a failure. That's a failure on their strategy and other people's.
Yo, if they ain't talking about reparations, I don't want to hear it, son. Like,
I
yo,
agree. I
if
agree.
you a Democrat, Republican, Independent, I don't care if you ain't talking about reparations, I don't even want to hear it.
that's what I'm saying. Well, think about it like this: the Asian community doesn't have to worry about what's being said by the politicians. They got their community. They doing stuff for their community. They know what's going to happen in their community, regardless. The Jewish community, they know what's going to happen in their communities, regardless. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to get to that point, because we're at this point where we still believe that the change is happening through electoral process, when the change that we really need has to happen from our community. And that was one of the reasons why I even started this podcast, why we came together to do this podcast in the first place, because we need to start having conversations that can help people understand how to conduct a conversation between different types of people. You know what I'm saying? We got to start getting to that point where we start learning how to do that, and we start bringing those conversations to the forefront. And the black man, I think, is the bridge between so many different gaps that we have in our community and society right now. At this point, you know what I'm saying? I just want to kind of lighten the mood, man. I was talking to somebody the other day, man. I was trying to go to the gym with my partner, and dude, when I was like, yo, we gonna meet up at the gym and we gonna play basketball. I like to play, you know. And after I sent him a message, I was like, dude, we gonna go meet up at the basketball gym. Whoop, whoop, you know. Dude was like, K. I was like, what the fuck, man? Made me want to even not even. Bruh, I didn't want to even play basketball no more.
Okay, what you mean?
Yeah,
Okay,
like, you say okay, bro. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, I was really pissed, bro. Like, I was like, how could you just really do that to me, man?
nah, son. Don't send no K messages.
Just wait a minute. Just like, okay, what's worse?
See how you just did
K,
that?
just the letter K,
You said, okay.
capital
You didn't
K,
say K.
K-A-Y-K.
Now that's effort, bro. Now you really going overboard. You wouldn't put in the effort, bro. You
I
wouldn't.
don't care if it's K-A-Y. No one should be. No man should. No grown ass man should be sending no damn K.
Nigga, I need my O.
Just K.
Your girl can send you K.
Give me
You
that
know?
O, man.
Baby, I'm on my way home. K. Right?
Nah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's different than,
Can
hey,
you
dude,
send your girl?
you on our way to go play ball. K. Nah.
Bro, like, you don't want to have
Can
it.
you send your girl K?
And then what if you don't respond, right? What if you don't respond to the text message and it's just sitting in your text message? Left is the message when you see your homeboy message and you just see K at the last. And your girl pick up the phone and she see your last message to a nigga talking about some K.
K. Like,
What you talking to a nigga talking about some K?